Okay, welcome. Thank you all for coming out tonight to Batavia High School, the Batavia Fine Arts Center. My name is Lisa Hitchens. I'm the superintendent of schools in Batavia. I know most of you are probably from Batavia, but all of the partner districts were invited to this presentation of the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School for Parent Night. So thank you for choosing to come out tonight. I'm glad to see so many of you here. I know that you're here because you have an interest in STEM. Your kids, there's a lot of kids here. You guys have an interest in STEM. But I think what you're going to hear tonight is that the reason this school is so special is because of all the partnerships that make it such an excellent school. We have Aurora University as a partner. There's 3 other school districts besides Batavia that are partners, East and West Aurora and Indian Prairie. There's corporate partners, and of course, you, the parents, are the missing piece to that puzzle, so that's why I'm so glad to see you here tonight. You're here to hear more about it, so without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. Sherry Eagle from Aurora University. Before I hand it over to Sherry, I want to introduce 2 Batavia people because they're going to be picking up note cards with any questions that you have. You should have received a note card, I think, when you came in. So Nikki Kitzmiller from Rotolo Middle School and Brad Newkirk, he's our Chief Academic Officer. Later on, they'll be walking around, flag them down if you have a question, and they'll pick up your question card. So Dr. Sherry Eagle, Aurora University.
Thank you. Logistics here. I didn't think about making sure I don't miss any of my notes. So, hold on a minute. Okay. Well, good evening. We'll figure this out. This is Dr. Patel. She's going to click. I wasn't sure I could click and talk and then get confused, so that sounds kind of sad, but sorry. It's a long night. So my name is Sherry Eagle, and I've also been the project director for the STEM Partnership School. So I welcome you this evening, and it is wonderful to see so many parents interested, very interested in their children's education, but more importantly, aligned to the school, that you're interested because your child has a very high interest in science and mathematics, and so by knowing that, you figure that this could be a possible match for their educational opportunity for them. This evening we're going to talk about the creation of the John C. Dunham School, a little bit about the curriculum design, our partners, as Dr. Hitchens pointed out, some specific features about the school, the student comments. Actually, we've had some students from Erin Carter, who's here this evening. Her 3rd grade students wanted to write to you and let you know what it was like to be in the school. Student recruitment and selection process, which we'll go through with the professionals from Batavia. And then little information about the daily operations, as well as the website that you can contact, you can seek for more information. So in 2007, the Dunham Fund, which is a family foundation in Aurora, pushed out a Challenge for Change opportunity throughout the entire community. And what they said was they wanted a group of people or individual to come up with an idea that could affect the community in a positive way. And because Aurora University at the time, through the Institute for Collaboration, has about 36 different institutions, we discussed the idea of perhaps jointly putting in a proposal. And so 12 institutions at the time made a decision that we would write to put together a proposal that would align a STEM initiative across the entire community. Initiative on education that would focus for our parents, our students, and would educate for the common good. We wrote it, we submitted it, and then we defended the proposal to the Dunham Fund Board, all 12 of us. And what gained their attention to our proposal was the fact that when they asked who is going to present, who among you is going to present the proposal, all 12 stood up and said, any one of us can present this because we know it, it's ours. We won first place. Got a big check for $100,000. And there were no strings attached at the time. But we had made a decision as a group that if indeed we won the $100,000, we would reinvest it in ourselves and in this proposal. And so we wrote a second proposal, and this time won $250,000 with a $150,000 match. Now, as I say, we had some serious money. And we asked some of our legislators to help us broker some connections to the corporate sector. And our first partner, our initial partner, was Exelon Corporation, the Exelon Corporation, Exelon Foundation, the parent company of ComEd. And we went there and visited with the CEO and discussed the idea of how could we potentially broker the opportunity to build a STEM center in Aurora for Aurora's children and children from environments that align and were contiguous to Aurora. And Mr. John Rowe at the time took over an hour of dialogue about how he would put this kind of a proposal together. And then very graciously said, and you can use the Exelon name, and we will give you your first $500,000. Go and get the rest. So that was in 2009. From 2009 until August of 2014, August of 2012, we were on a mission not only to raise money, but also to raise partner connections. When we went out to the corporations, it wasn't just about, we want your money, but we wanted your intellectual capital. We wanted your partnership. We wanted you to help be creators of this program, not only advisors. So during that time frame, we raised $12.6 million. And we knew that then we had enough money not only to build the infrastructure necessary for the school, but we also had money to develop the program. There's one slide that I'm going to read because I think it's really important. We've developed a vision, and so if you're going to attend the school, this is the concept of it. So rising from innovation and collaboration, the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School is a nationally recognized model, inspiring students to transformative academic achievement in science and mathematics, employing the community as a laboratory to create leaders of tomorrow and improve workforce development. We are involved in improving the workforce for tomorrow. We want to make sure that our students are prepared to be citizens that can earn a living for themselves and their families and contribute to their communities. The school began construction in 2013, and in August of 2014, we welcomed the first class from Aurora East, Aurora West, and the Indian Prairie School District. The school is located on the campus of the university. There is the address. If you've driven by it and have the opportunity to drive by, even in the evening, you'll see all the windows have neon lighting around them. There's a large wind turbine in front, which I'll talk about in a moment. It will be serving 200 students from East Aurora, West Aurora, Indian Prairie, and the Batavia School District. There are 50 students enrolled from each of those districts. And the students that come to the school will work with a variety of the teachers as well as a variety of students. They will be working with students from all 4 of those districts and potentially many different grade levels. It is a multi-generational environment, excuse me. So we have university students many times working with our younger students because they could be both problem solving on a particular issue that has been given to them by the corporate sector. The idea is that your children that come to this school are highly motivated to be problem solvers. The way they learn best is by trying to figure out the answer. Not knowing that just one answer is right, but trying to come at something from multiple ways, even as young as 8 years of age. Not all children learn like this, But if yours does, it is a good environment for them to thrive. So they have to exhibit talent in mathematics and science. They like to do things with their hands, hands-on kinds of opportunities and experiments. This obviously is somewhat aligned to the scientific method where you come up with a hypothesis and then you try to maneuver the experiment so that you can figure out multiple answers. The key, even in the name of the school, partnership, is the word collaborative. Have to believe that they enjoy working together and learning with others rather than to learn in a solitary environment. Nothing wrong, there's two different ways to learn. But if your child is one that enjoys working in groups or being connected to someone else and both trying to figure it out, this environment produces learners that are very successful in that way. They also must be very attuned to technology. I know Batavia, and to your credit, your students have Chromebooks. All of the students in the STEM school have Chromebooks, and they also have high-level tech from 3D printers to MakerBot spaces to interactive smart boards in all the classrooms where they can video conference with their partners. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Patel, and I'm sorry I forgot to introduce my esteemed panel here, so I'm going to pause and do that for one moment. This is Dr. Chetna Patel. She's a professor of chemistry at Aurora University. Seated is Elizabeth Coletta. She is a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade mathematics and science teacher at the STEM Partnership School. Her home district is Indian Prairie. And next to her is Ms. Erin Carter. She is a 3rd grade teacher at the STEM Partnership School, and her home district is West Aurora School District 129. And seated next to her is, William Schubert, who is a corporate partner affiliated with Waste Management.
Good evening. As you know, the students who will be enrolled in the STEM school, because they have enrolled in the STEM school because of their high interest in science. And so the entire curriculum is integrated. We want to make science the focus. And here is an example that you see on the slide where you have matter and energy, and the curriculum, the other courses that are taught using those concepts of matter and energy. You can teach science, art, PE, English, language arts, social studies, and mathematics. So the curriculum was newly designed and developed with this kinds of thinking in mind. We've developed the curriculum around 6 major topics, which are all based on the framework of K through 12 next generation science standards: matter and energy, force and motion, ecosystems and adaptations, geology and space, structure and function of organisms, and weather, climate, and human impact. All of these topics, the curriculum is aligned to Common Core standards, the next generation science standards, which consist of disciplinary core ideas, the science and engineering practices, and it's also aligned to the supply chain process, which is something that is so unique to our curriculum because we have brought in the input of our industrial partners. The supply chain process, which basically includes the product design, the creation, the redesign of the product, and the recycling, which is so much part of the current industry. We have also aligned it to the workforce corporate framework. So what we have done is, through collaborative work between our partners and our districts and the faculty, the group came up with 4 distinct parts to this framework, which is product design, understanding product design, career awareness, industrial experiences, and interpersonal skills. So these are the 4 areas that the industry thought should be taught to the kids at a very young level. These skills should be developed over long term. And the Illinois pathway is for college and career readiness. So the curriculum designers, we've had a whole entire group of corporate and not-for-profit engineers and their staff over the past 2 years we've met throughout the past 2 years to develop this exciting curriculum. Fermi, Exelon, Caterpillar, Cabot Microelectronics, Waste Management, Aurora University faculty, as well as the school districts. We actually met over the course of 2 years and gave credits to the teachers who participated in this type of curriculum design. The curriculum is based on from understanding by design framework, and the curriculum is driven by essential questions, which is what drives the curriculum, which is what excites the kids rather than teaching just definitions and rote memorization. So we'll hand it over to Liz Kaleda, who's one of the teachers, who can give you first-hand experience of what it's like to teach.
Good evening, and thank you for coming in tonight. We're here to give you a little bit of a first-hand experience as to what school day is like at the John C. Dunham STEM School. So as you've heard earlier, there's 3rd through 8th grade students that attend the school. It's very much a collaborative environment on behalf of the students in which they're frequently problem-solving, inquiry-type situations, in which they're definitely connected to the technology, as well as having access to extensive laboratories for that experimentation.
Overall, our students are very hands-on. We're not standing in front of the class and teaching them. They're looking and discovering on their own, and we're there to guide them. It's not something where they're going to sit down and read a book. It's something they're going to go and find on their own some information with the guidance of the teacher, instead of the teacher just telling them what to do.
Oh, thank you. So also, we definitely follow the Illinois State Board of Education requirements. In terms of the school day, the students do have arts and music once a week, as well as physical education, and then health for the middle school students. We do offer after-school activities that range from robotics clubs. We also have a Girls on the Run program that we offer, student government. We also have
There's band.
a band. It's not a band in which we have like during the school day, but an after-school opportunity for that. And then a chess club as well.
And for our specials, there are university faculty. So we have Dr. Plummer, who is from the university, who's currently teaching music. And right now, currently, that's it for our specials.
Thanks.
I only get one slide, so it's easy. You might ask, what's a Fortune 500 company doing in the development of this grade school? Well, I think our company is well aware, and I'm an environmental engineer, so personally I'm aware. I've been involved in training and recruitment engineers for a long time with waste management. It's become the need is very clear. Where our culture has went and where our vocational needs have gone creates a real need for us to teach science and math differently than we have in the past. And what I've learned the last 3 years, working with this group and Aurora University is, that's a big challenge, because there is a lot of things that need to be reinvented and developed. And this particular collaborative approach has really allowed a lot of things to come together where it couldn't have been done in another type of environment. So we're happy to be a part of it. What we've done over those 3 years, we've gotten involved in, we talked about curriculum design. We're involved in curriculum design. And we walked in that, we really didn't know what we were doing, but we were engineers. They're the educational professionals, but we were able to lend some of our experience, industry experience, and people from Caterpillar, people from Tell Labs that got involved, or and we're able to lend some real-world experience to the development of the curriculum. We got involved in teacher development, both in the summer and during the school year. We get involved in the teachers' development. And what this slide shows is interactive exhibits. Each one of the partner companies involved has developed an interactive exhibit. This one, and here's a little guy twisting all the valves on our exhibit. But what it is, it's basically a pipe manifold that we apply a vacuum to, and we can teach fundamental fluid mechanics from the platform of our renewable energy technology. So not only do the kids learn the hands-on science, but they also be able to put it in the context of a real-life application. So, we're proud of that. We've done a few lessons in the school with it, and the teachers are getting familiar with it, and we'll be able to do a lot of things with that, as well as some of the other things we do in the schools.
So there are a few things, in addition to what I've mentioned, that I wanted to, before I go into some of the features of the school, and I failed to bring these up. In order for us to be grounded in the state of Illinois as a partnership school, we passed legislation. And the legislation passed unanimously in both the Senate and the House of the state of Illinois. And the interesting piece about this legislation is the keyword partnership. It requires that a partnership school be designed with multiple school districts, a municipality, and a university. And that's really important because what it says is that this model is very unique and probably, we believe, the only model like this in the nation. Because we are all willing to say that in order to get the best curriculum, in order to design and create something new and a new model of practice, that it takes more than just looking at it from a teacher perspective or a corporate perspective, but rather it takes multiple districts to come together with its municipality and higher education. The municipality, of course, for us, is the city of Aurora, and all the school districts that have contiguous boundaries to it are part of the law that was passed and signed in July of 2011. The other piece that is very important is that it's not a school in a sense that it only will impact the children in this school. Our goal is that the curriculum, having had web-based, and the resources as well, through very shortly interactive website, will be able to be brought out to the home school district so that it can be shared and the teachers in the home districts begin to have conversations among each other. The important thing to note is you have a very high quality school district in Batavia. I've been very familiar with Batavia Public Schools my entire career. And that's a distinguished school district in the state of Illinois. The fact that it is requested the participation on the STEM school shows its insightfulness to say, but we can learn more. And we can learn more from others if we engage in this process, knowing that we will give and get back. Now, that's the kind of school district you want your children to be involved with, because that's the school district that cares about the learning that's important now and the learning that will be important in the future. So it's an opportunity for your children, as well as an opportunity for your teachers to participate in the school, like Elizabeth Coletta and Aaron Carter, and then ultimately go back to their home school and be leaders in those school districts to help implement the best practices that we've determined based on our study of the school. So one of the ways we looked at enhancing learning is by looking at the environment. And the school itself has no desks. We have everything involved with tables. Why? because if we're about collaboration, it's much easier to collaborate than to pull desks together. In many classrooms, you walk around, the desks are pulled together. Well, we decided, you know what, let's just buy the tables in the first place. Actually, we experimented with furnishings on 4th and 5th graders the year prior to opening to say, to see which ones were most conforming to and conducive to their learning. So we have tables. You can also see that there are shades from the outside on the windows. The ceiling, well, you can't really see it too well here, but there are parts of the ceiling that are exposed. The whole idea is that the whole idea is that the environment is a learning environment. It is very energy efficient. And the point being, how could we possibly have these children that will be the citizens of the future worrying about energy efficiency and not have an energy efficient building in which they can learn? So the building is a learning environment. It is also energy efficient. In the other picture, you will see what Bill Sherbert was talking about in terms of one of the displays. This is an area called the STEM Forum, or the TELABS Global Center, and students can spill out into this area. There are tables, there are small little cafe tables, there are little stools. I like the little stools the best because the kids can move, and of course kids never stop moving, even while they're learning. And in this area, it has a museum-like quality as well because there are interactive displays for each of our corporations. Within the display, it not only tells about the corporation and the work that's done there, but it shows why this particular organization and corporation has an impact on the learning that the students are currently doing. So we've aligned these interactive displays to the next generation science standards as well as the Common Core. The STEM laboratories that you see in this picture are where our university students as well as our young students have an opportunity to learn science. The environment again is multi-generational. There are stools that we experimented with so that they can go up and down and be comfortable for young children as well as undergraduates. And the laboratory tables that look like in a kidney shape have sinks, but they also go up and down. I was telling a group earlier today, the professors don't give me that clicker because I love to watch the table go up and down, but they don't give that to me. I don't know why, but it's so amazing. As a third grader can sit there, and the next table over you can have 8th graders. But the idea is that these laboratories are equipped with the same technology that the workshops/classrooms are for young learners. So they begin to understand that science is about learning in a laboratory environment. And their classroom is a laboratory, but then there are also more formalized laboratories. And even when they're not in there, they can see in there, and they can see young people doing work and understanding and appreciating science. And so there's goal and aspiration that science is cool and it's a good thing to do it. And it's a good thing to be interested in. So all of the classrooms have major glass exposure. The laboratories, which traditionally in a university would be, this is the chem lab and this is the biology lab, our laboratories are multifaceted and they align very well to our corporate sector as well as the learning that we want to take place. So you look at the biomedical life science laboratory, it's very much aligned to one of our professors who's a biomedical engineer, as well as one of our corporations, Sheck and Cyrus, which manufactures prosthetics and orthotics. And of course that links up with the manufacturing, modeling, and design laboratory, where students have an opportunity to actually create different soles for shoes and develop the running ability of what the sole shape should be with a 3D printer. They can test the strength of an axle that they can make on a model car to determine its wearability. And even though they also make joints, body joints. And I was in there one day when they did the elbow, I think. I thought, I don't want that one in my body, but they're getting the idea. That will take them into the next generation of their thinking. There's a rooftop garden at the top of the building, and there's a staircase which is located in Stevens Hall. The students walk up. The rooftop garden also has exposure outside as well as a full greenhouse inside. And again, we're hoping as we move forward that we can add even more botany or agriculture within the STEM curriculum. And the big marker of the school is this large wind turbine. I said earlier today, when it's windy, it moves, and when it's not, it doesn't. But it generates energy along with the solar panels, and that energy is able to power the building at about 15% of the need, as well as the data that is collected from that energy savings is retrievable by our students. The building is LEED certified, so it is definitely, as I told you, energy efficient. We now are at a gold LEED status, and hopefully even beyond. And the building is located in such a way that it is a nice walk to the cafeteria where the students will eat their meals, and also to the football field and the gymnasium where they can have their physical education. I like to say that the walk itself is healthy and helps them get to where they're going to eat, and then helps them digest their food on the way back. So I'm reading one of the student comments from Erin Carter's room. So this is for the students in the audience. This is a third grader who wanted to share their comments with you. Did you ever think about going to STEM? Well, this is your chance. You can do fun experiments and learn about stuff that you didn't even know existed. First, you can engineer stuff like a water filter and get DNA out of a strawberry and keep it. Then you'll be able to dissect owl pellets and put the bones you find back together. That helps you find out what the owl's diet is and possibly where it's from. After that, you will learn about space and will find out what planets have water besides Earth. Another good thing about STEM is that you will get and have access to your very own Chromebook at school. Plus, you get to have video conferences with Caterpillar and Cabot Microelectronics. These are third graders. They're already on a familiar basis with these corporations. And also, you get to play and do PE on AU's field, gym, labs, mess hall, cafeteria, supplies, and more. Another reason you should come is that you can make lots of friends, even people out of your grade and school. Last, you get to join clubs like Lego robotics and chess. That's why you should come to STEM. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Brent Newkirk, who will tell you about the process that begins your child's potential enrollment in the STEM school.
Dr. Eagle and the others have explained to you a little bit about the opportunities that are available at the Partnership School for children that are interested in math and science. And that process really mirrors, what they talked about really mirrors the process for potential enrollment in the STEM school. And that starts with parents or a third adult completing a survey that talks specifically about a child's interest in math and science. And there were copies of that when you came in. It's also available online at the Batavia website. Underneath programs, there's a whole page for the STEM school. If you think this is an opportunity for your child, and an environment for your child to learn and grow, then you can complete that survey and return it to your child's classroom teacher. So at the elementary level in grades 2 through 5, you return that to your child's homeroom or classroom teacher. At the middle school level, you would return that to your math or science teacher. When teachers have received those, and those need to be received no later than Friday, April 10th, getting that application, the teacher, or they will walk you down to the office to receive a yellow receipt that acknowledges that we received your application, your initial application to the STEM school. Once we've received those, teachers will give us some feedback about your child. They'll look at some test scores. They'll look at their ability to collaborate, their current interest in math and science, and they will give us that information and forward that on to our central office. Again, it's not screening out students, but we don't want to set students up for failure. This is a unique opportunity for students, and we want to encourage as many students as possible who have this interest, this deep interest in math and science, to apply. That would happen on April 10th and is the first step in that process. If you want to visit the STEM school, there's an opportunity. I realize it's during spring break, but this Saturday from 9 to 11 at the Partnership School, 405 Gladstone on Aurora University's campus. They will have an open house for parents and some of our teachers who are interested as well. Batavia is stepping into this in much the same way that the other partner districts did, where we will be sending between 8 and 9 students at each grade level, grades 3 through 8. So that would be our current 2nd through 7th graders would be applying for next year's admission. So that open house is an opportunity for you, your child, your whole family to come take a look at the Partnership School to see it for yourself. If interest in each of the grade levels outstrips the number of slots that Batavia has available, we will hold a lottery. This lottery is held on the same day in all of the different districts. So primarily in East Aurora, West Aurora, and in Indian Prairie, they will be doing a lottery for 3rd graders coming into the school, having exited their 8th graders. So the lottery, if necessary, will take place on April 29th, and that will take place at the district's central office. Those students who are selected for attendance will receive by May 6th a formal acceptance letter, and there's a little bit of time for you to consider that acceptance letter, and we need to know if your child plans to attend the STEM school by May 13th. If you decide not to, your seat would be offered up to the next student on the waiting list. In other districts, when they held the lottery last year, there were nearly 1,000 students in the 3 districts who are on the waiting list. So we feel lucky to have 50 seats at the STEM school. Those students who, if there is a lottery, who are waitlisted will receive letters by May 6th indicating that the student is on our district waiting list, and if a subsequent opening becomes available, they will be selected in that order. They're going to talk a little bit more about the daily operations and what your kids will be experiencing.
Just a note on that too, for the lottery, you do not, well, I shouldn't say this, you do not need to be present, right? Right. So that was a question in the other meetings as well. But if you're going to go, you should attend your own lottery at Batavia, even though they're on the same night. It's not like the parent meetings. So the daily operation of the school, obviously we have 4 school districts, and so we've selected as a governing board. The governing board is made up of the 4 school superintendents from the 4 districts, as well as the president of the university. The determination was we would go with the West Aurora calendar. We are going with the West Aurora calendar. This year it seems to have worked out. Very similar calendars, but for professional development days, etc. So that calendar begins on August 19th, and then it goes to May 25th, unless there's a need for snow days. I'm sure next year, no snow days. But just in case, every child at the STEM school is transported. So the busing is provided by your home school district. They will give you all the information once your child is selected as to where those buses will pick up your child. I can assure you that the drop-off at the STEM school is an indented area on the side of the school. We have it marked, blocked off. We obviously have other university students that are parking, but for the buses coming in as well as when they go out, it is highly secure. And along with that, the building security. We have the Raptor system at our school, same as the schools that you have in Batavia. But in addition to that, we also have security cameras throughout the school. They're very invisible, but we do have them. We also have them in our parking lot. And in order to get to and fro from the laboratories, all students at the university that work in a multi-generational setting or work with our students have a key card that is able to be swiped and coded that they have had background checks and they can work with the students. If they do not have that special access card, they cannot enter into the STEM school in any way. They can, they'd have to go through the front door and go through the Raptor system. Our students, the young students that go into the laboratories, are always escorted by an adult. They're escorted by an adult no matter where they go once they go outside of that STEM school. They are always escorted by an adult. So at this time, if you have any questions, you have received an index card, I believe, when you walked in. And if you have a personal question about only your child, you should write that question out, put your name and access number where you can be reached privately, because we won't discuss just personal. But if it's a general question that needs clarification, we'd like you to write it, and then we will have people pick it up. We'll take a few minutes, and then we will answer your questions. Two very good questions. Should have covered that. Thought I did, maybe I did. Okay, so the students in the school, if your child has an active 504 plan, or if they're a special needs child with an active IEP, they can apply to the STEM school. We currently have a special ed teacher. Actually, she is a university professor that teaches special education, and we also have a former special ed director who works with our students, those that need additional help but do not have an active IEP. So, and yes, the same is the case with the 504 plans. Okay. So the other question is about acceleration, and I should have mentioned this as well. We do have an opportunity for, this year, middle school students to be accelerated. We teach algebra, pre-algebra, as well as geometry. So that is our highest course right now. There was a question about, potentially if we needed to go to a higher level second year algebra. You are living on a college campus. So I think, we could certainly do anything to accommodate. In the elementary grades, we currently accelerate just like all others with a differentiated experiences. Next year, we may be able to do even more with acceleration, but at this current time, we weren't accelerating in math, but that doesn't mean that that won't happen. The other part is, what do you do in reading? Well, we certainly accommodate to the students' grade level reading. In terms of acceleration, I've only been asked one question, and maybe you know the answer, but if a student was really ready to take higher level reading courses, this actually was a comment about one was ready to go take a college level class, there's probably something that we could always accommodate in a special area like that. But we don't have typical acceleration taking high school level courses in the language arts. Okay, another very good question. So this involves the legislation. They asked if Batavia was invited this year, other nearby districts in the future, thereby making the school's population larger and more diverse. So in the law, it states that only districts that are have contiguous boundaries to the municipality. So the municipality is Aurora. There are 6 school districts that have contiguous boundaries to Aurora. East Aurora, West Aurora, Indian Prairie, Batavia, Canelan, and Oswego. So for our school, we can only add the possibility of 2 additional districts, Oswego and Canelan. Oh, what is the makeup of the school? Well, I can give you the makeup of the school currently. Gender, it's 50-50. I think maybe 49%, 51%, but we're pretty close to 50-50, boys and girls. Ethnicity is about 25% Caucasian, 25% Asian, 25% Latino, about 12 to 15% African American, and then other. Pretty diverse and equal, because if you look at who we are in Aurora, we kind of mirror, and Aurora and its environs, we kind of mirror that population. So that is the school currently. I would suspect it would stay fairly close to that. The other thing was economics, free and reduced lunch. It's about 49, 51% as well. You know, the busing issue, okay, so the students, all the students are bused to the school and they're all bused home. We do not have after-school busing at the STEM Partnership School. However, for the activities, the parents obviously can pick up their children, but we do not have, that would be a very ambitious thing to do, considering there's 4 districts, you know, coordinating the busing, even have an after school. But that doesn't mean it's, and this is where I get in trouble, it doesn't mean it's impossible, but currently we do not have it. We do not have athletics. We do have music. I mean, music and art, any of the requirements of the Illinois State Board of Education for music, art, physical education, we do have. Your students get the same amount of minutes, if not a little more, than they would in Batavia. But as far as do we have an orchestra? No. Or a band? No, we don't, though we have a club that's a band after school. Oh, okay. Yeah, yes, well, this was the 504 question. 504 plan. Students with 504 plans or an active IEP, yes, you can apply. Okay, so this is another very fine question. So what if you start the school and you find out that your child is not being successful? Can they return to Batavia? Do you want to answer that question? I mean, I don't want to answer on behalf of Batavia. Okay. Well, I will answer on behalf of Batavia. I would assume, yes, that you never leave your status as a Batavia student. You will always have a home school in Batavia. If there's a mutual agreement that the environment is not conducive to their learning, the whole goal of the school is to improve academic achievement. If it's not leading in that way to your child, that's not the best learning environment for them. So, but once they are there, if it is, they stay until they leave 8th grade. They do not reapply every year. Oh. Will there be an open house? Actually, last year, maybe you heard, we had kind of a circus theme open house for all the students. And the answer to that question is yes. So if your child has been selected, there will be an open house prior to school starting for parents, siblings, and the students on the campus of the university and the school. We always try to celebrate the opening of the school, so it will be celebrated.
A couple common questions. The school hours are from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. As Dr. Eagle said, you don't lose your status as a Batavia student. So that means if you're going to transition back, we'll facilitate that. But also participation in extracurricular activities, while there are some logistical barriers to that, because of the 8 to 3 time, they're still Batavia students and would have access to that.
Sorry, will there be a nurse in the building? And I apologize, I thought. This year, what we used for our nursing services were our nursing students on the campus. These are students currently enrolled in either our BSN or MSN degree programs. So we do have a nurse's office in the building. And but if you needed additional emergency services, we have a full health clinic on our campus. So that area is covered. So I think Dr. Newkirk went through the criteria. We don't get into the specifics on the criteria, but it starts first with your decision to enroll your child on that survey. And then it goes to your classroom, your child's classroom teacher, or if it's a middle schooler, it goes to their math or science teacher. And then the teacher fills out the rest of that criteria. There is no one criteria, there's no one score that gets your child in or out. This is not a gifted academy. It is a school for children that have a high interest and talent in math and science. So if you know that's true, I'm sure it's been exhibited in the school and your teacher will know that's true, and that puts you into the pool. If you think your child has an interest in math and science and your child's not exhibiting any of that, well then that's a discussion that you need to think of, get with the teacher. This question, I don't know how are you managing the learning time between Common Core and special STEM programs? Well, all of the curriculum is aligned to the Common Core, as well as the next generation science standards. So when mathematics or science is being taught, even though it's in an interdisciplinary mode, the teachers know what Common Core areas are being addressed. And that's not unlike the curriculum here in Batavia. Okay. Oh, that one. Why isn't this for 9th or 12th grade? Well, I said something last night, so if any of you watch the Indian Prairie website, you'll see. He said, well, when is the high school? First of all, this is a professional development program as well, and we would hope very much that as we move the opportunities for teachers to learn and grow as we study this program, it can affect and impact a high school and in all of the high schools in these 4 districts. Should the communities come together and say, let's try to do something like this for high school? I am convinced that anything you want to happen can. There were individuals that didn't think we could raise $12.6 million in 3 years. So I think if something has merit and you want it, or it can be a school within a school. It's all very exciting. What is the library like? Well, the library is in the hands of most children today. We also have a full library, Phillips Library, on our campus. It has, full collections of materials. We also have a STEM resources that are currently housed in the Stevens Hall building, and we're going to work very hard through the summer to move all those collections into the STEM school. But because it's web-based, it's instant information. We don't have a library per se that is just for the STEM school. One could argue that the whole STEM school is somewhat of a library, but I understand what you're trying to say, and probably don't have that kind of a facility, though we do have a library. Oh, okay. This is a very good question. So how are you validating and evaluating the success of the program? Thank you for bringing that up. So the governing board of the school hired an outside evaluator. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Hoyer. She was, or I think currently is, the evaluator for the state of Illinois' mathematics and science programs. She is doing the formal evaluation of the school. She's evaluating teachers in terms of content knowledge learned, evaluating students, focus group for parents, focus groups for students, focus groups for faculty, focus groups for teachers, as well as the partners. So a full evaluation plan was approved, and it should be available, I've got my fingers crossed, should be available at some point in late June and presented to the governing board. Additional educational cost? No. There is no additional cost to attend the school for the parent. If your school district pays a per capita fee, the same per capita as every other school district that is involved in the program. And because the university is a partner, we pay for our share of those costs. So any of the costs you divide, we pay for all the custodial and maintenance costs. The university pays for the director of the school, their cost and benefit. They pay for the curriculum liaison. We carry all the debt on the school and pay for that. So it is a win-win for both the 4 school districts as well as the university, but each of the districts pay for that, so there is no additional cost. Now, if you want to buy a t-shirt for a club or any of those costs, that's ancillary to the question.
You would still be responsible for paying general registration fees to the district, but it would be the Batavia fees. There's no additional fees, as Dr. Eagle said. Something about the teachers. Teachers are there on a rotational basis for 2 to 4 years. So 2 Batavia teachers will be, we're going through the process now to select those teachers from those interested to also go to the STEM school, because this is a learning opportunity for our staff as well. Our staff members, one at the elementary level and one at the middle level, will be there on a 4-year rotation. So staff are there for 2 to 4 years. The wait list would be by grade, so students would be selected based on that. A question about the calendar. They are in West Aurora's calendar. We did put that up on our website so that you can see under the STEM page on the bps101.net site, but spring break and winter break do align for next year.
I'll do my best for a few more and we'll see. The question about how many students per classroom. This year each teacher had 25. We are going to do the same ratio of each teacher being responsible for 25 students. Now I know that So there'll be 100 elementary students and there will be 100 middle school students, but we're adding additional teachers. So how that will pan out, because I know there's only 3 grades, 3, 4, 5, and there's 100 students and there's 4 teachers. We are working on an organizational format. We are teaching students and the content, so they come in at their grade level, but depending on what the content is, we can mix grade levels as well, because it is discipline oriented. But I assure you that the goal for teaching the Common Core and the standards at the 3rd grade level, if your child's a 3rd grader, those are the goals that will be achieved by that student. But that doesn't mean that that 3rd grader will also not be exposed to 4th grade and 5th grade, if they're ready for those. Because if they've learned the 3rd grade, and vice versa, if the 5th grade needs to understand the 4th grade, that's the way good teaching is done all the time. All right, well, okay, it was a ratio of boys to girls. I'm hoping, I would assume it's going to be very similar next year. Do they read actual literature, or is it all STEM? No, do you want to give your example about the story Learn? No, that's not the title. What is it?
Wonder. For 3rd grade, to follow our first unit, we have structures and functions of organisms. So in 3rd grade, we were talking about life cycles and genetics. And to incorporate fiction in ELA, we read the book Wonder, which I'm not sure if any of you are familiar, but it's a young boy with a facial deformity. So we were able to connect the genetics and take it a little further through the book and through the story, and then also talk about perspectives, which is one of the core ideas in the 3rd grade ELA curriculum, and to bring that in. So we're still talking about science, but now we're bringing it in a fiction story to kind of connect those things. And we have a couple questions, so while they're looking, we can answer them. There's a couple questions about lunch. We do walk across campus to the cafeteria. It's before the university eats, so it is a little bit earlier. We didn't want to mix the college students with the elementary students. The hot lunch choice is there, and we were just conversing because we're not quite sure how many options they have, but we know it's good because they enjoy their lunch. This is a chef there making that lunch. You get the calendar ahead of time like you would in a typical school. And so there is that option. I believe there's also a salad bar every day. And they all, regardless of whether they get hot lunch or bring their own lunch, will eat in the cafeteria. We're not going to, they do, because some of the bus rides are a little longer. When they come in the morning, they are given time to eat breakfast. Whether they bring it from home or purchase it from the school, they're also given that opportunity for breakfast. Anything else you can think of for lunch? Then another question is about the lessons and it being student generated. We do have a curriculum, a framework of curriculum, which has those essential questions that we're asking them. Now, we pose that question to the students, but they do the investigating. And if they start to get off track, that's where we're going to guide them back to the outcome we want them to have, the conclusion we want them to get. But the legwork in that is done among the students. And so when I was saying that we're not just standing up there lecturing, they're investigating, we're facilitating that investigation. So they're learning, they have more ownership in what they're learning. For example, like I mentioned with the structures and function, we were just talking about basic genetics. Once we got into, actually one of the chapters is Punnett Square. I don't know if you're familiar, but that's a pretty high genetic skill. And once they talked about that in the book Wonder, the students were very interested about learning more about that. So we were able to take that a little further because they were curious, they were engaged, and they were interested. So that's just something you wouldn't typically have with third graders, but their question and their interest was there, so we continued with that. In the grading system, we have formative assessments, summative assessments, and any projects or presentations are also rubric-based assessments. So we do a variety of assessments that you would still see in your typical school.
So there was a question about are spelling bees held? And if so, can the student participate in the homeschool spelling bee? Yes, they can. We do not have a spelling bee at our school that we have currently held this year, not yet. But we do have a few students that go back to their home school to even participate in sports if the timing, at the middle school level does work out for them to, get that transportation back to their home school. So that is an option for them. We've had a few questions on what does a typical school day look like. So I'll just do a quick run through of a typical 7th grader schedule and what that day would look like. As Erin mentioned earlier, in regards to breakfast, we all start with a homeroom. So that's about 15 minutes till about 8:15 in the morning. And then the 7th graders have their PE class first thing in the morning. So generally we walk them across campus and then pick them up and escort them back to the building. After that, they have their language arts and social studies block, and that's held together so that middle school teacher or elementary teacher can kind of use the time as necessary to meet those goals and outcomes. Then we have breakfast, we already had that, sorry. Then we have lunch, and again, the students walk across campus to go to the cafeteria, and they're escorted there. And then oftentimes we'll have outdoor recess. So they have some time after lunch to do that. And then they come back, and a 7th grader would go to math class. So they have about 45-minute math class. And then their end part of the day, which is a 3-period block of time, is spent in STEM, where there's an integration of all of the content. Not only the science, but also language arts, also math at that time. And that's where we address those main STEM units.
So here's another question. Does the application information affect the lottery? Well, if your application does not meet any of the criteria, you will not get placed in the lottery, and then you'll be notified. But once you're in the lottery, it is strictly a draw of random numbers. So once you're in and you let me say it this way, once you qualify for the lottery, then it's up to the randomization. And I don't know how you're doing it. Are you doing it electronically? Okay. So most of the districts are just doing it electronically. You can watch it. It just randomizes the numbers. So they don't have any idea who you are. Another outstanding question. Are test scores competitive with Batavia scores? Well, first of all, you're looking at a whole district versus one school that just started in August. We do not have scores, quote scores yet. We did participate in Park a few weeks ago. We're going to participate again in the end of April or middle of April when the second Park round comes. And all of the assessments are finalized by the end of the year, just like in any school district. We should have our evaluation report, as I stated, that will be presented to the governing board. If not, the report's supposed to come by the end of June. It's going to probably be presented to the governing board in July. And so I don't have data to share with you. But I would assume, if you're looking at this from a perspective of your own child, what you've heard tonight, do you believe that this is an environment in which he or she will thrive and grow? But the data, I think that's the best way to measure whether or not this is a good fit for your child, but I do not have the data. By the way, the scores from the school, they go back to your home school. We're not a school per se, we're kind of more of an attendance site, but the students from Batavia, their scores will go to their home schools in Batavia. So we won't have a school report card or meet or exceeds from the STEM school. But we are going to collect our own data from that data, but it'll really, the benefactor of the learning in the STEM school will be to the home school. And, well, let me say this, the benefit to the learning in the STEM school will be to the child.
Just a couple more and we'll just wrap it up here. One question was regarding the lottery. Will it be divided by elementary school with a certain number of seats per elementary school? And the answer to that is no. It's by grade level for those interested in qualified students. So there's no number of seats per elementary school here in Batavia. And that really goes to The next question, there were a number of questions about transportation. It's hard to answer those questions because we don't know which students we would be picking up in the morning and taking to the STEM school. So once we know who the students are, we'll arrange bus routes for students. The STEM school is just 9 miles away, so if you head down Randall Road, if you've never been to the campus of Aurora University, if you take Randall Road till where it dead ends, it's 9 miles, and the STEM school is very close to where Randall Road dead ends at Aurora University. So it's not that long of a distance, but we would look at which routes we would run depending on where the students who are selected to attend.
The other question, I apologize, was on the same card. How do I apply if we are currently attending a private school in Batavia? Whether you're attending a private school in Batavia or Aurora, West Aurora, East Aurora, Indian Prairie, in order to participate in the John C. Dunham STEM Partnership School, you must be currently enrolled in one of these public school districts. That is the way we have structured it. It's an opportunity for the districts pay for the students on their per capita, and that's the way the enrollment is. So if you're interested and you currently attend a private school, best way to get into the STEM school is to become a part of the Batavia Public School District, and then you will automatically be given the opportunity to attend.
There were a lot of questions. Some of them were repeats, and we'll try and answer all of those. What Nikki and I will do is we will take the questions, we'll develop an FAQ so that we can write out these answers, so that if you miss something or you need clarification when you're talking to your children about this opportunity, that you have those answers there for you. I do have a couple of people who have individual questions who put their name, phone number, or email on the card, and I will get back to you, or Nikki will get back to you with answers to your questions. But please take a look at our websites. If your child is interested in this opportunity, again, fill out the application, the interest application, and submit that to your classroom teacher. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Really appreciate you taking your time for this.